So, dinner's turning out to be a mistake. Not all of it, obviously, because Lacey's here, and I literally couldn't be happier about that. But the last 10 minutes? Most definitely a mistake. It all started with a pitcher of sangria, which is Spanish for the fast, surefire way to get tipsy without ever tasting the alcohol. Mom made some the night after Dad left, probably to help with all the tension that's been sucking the air out of our house ever since. I'm not judging her for it, though. I mean, I'd be lying if I said I haven't been sneaking some for a little help in the sleep and overall sanity department, but details. Anyway, right before the sangria made its appearance out of the fridge, the start of this sort of date night with my not-quite girlfriend was awesome. More than awesome. Not that I believe in past lives or whatever, but if they existed, I'm pretty sure Lacey and my mom were best friends in another universe. Real talk. The second my mom got downstairs and saw Lacey sitting on the living room couch, she screamed like she just won the lottery, ran across the room and scooped her up into her arms. I stood there, watching them talk and laugh like nothing bad had ever happened in this house. And I felt buzzed off the feeling. Off the fact that the two women I want to be around most were in the same place at the same time. It took me a couple seconds to realize it, but I was totally happy. And it wasn't because of a high. It was real and intense. So much so that I'm not used to the feeling. Especially after everything that went down with Dad. Experiencing any kind of happiness is like using your left hand after a lifetime of depending on your right hand to ground you. I kept waiting for the feeling to stop throughout dinner, but it didn't. It still hasn't, and that has everything to do with Lacey. I like to say that I haven't felt this happy in a long time, which is true, but if I'm being completely honest, the sad truth is, I can't really remember a last time. At all. Earlier, she helped me set everything up for the meal like she lived here. I always set the table, but she was so fast on her feet I barely got to lay out the silverware. I guess I expected her to feel weird in a dining room like ours, mostly because of the expensive-looking dishes and the rest of the rich people antiques my dad bought. But none of that seemed to bother her. She's still sitting next to me, comfortably, just laughing and smiling at my mom's stories and complimenting her killer cooking the same way I would. Things are good. Too good. So good, in fact, that my mom started supplementing her good mood with Spanish wine, which is bad news for me.
Listen, Cariña, I know it's a school night and you have to head home soon, but I can't let you leave without telling you my favorite story of Elias. I don't even remember the last time I told you because it's been so long since we've had such a lovely guest.
She could say that again.
But if you're going to be his girlfriend...
Mama, she's my friend, remember? Mi amiga, like we talked about? I'm not trying to sound desperate, or look desperate, or act like I'm protecting secrets from the CIA, but I can't help it. I stare at my mom across the table as she casually lifts her wine glass to her lips and slowly sips down a mouthful of sangria like she's on a beach somewhere. I wish I was on a beach somewhere, which Lacey and I could be if I just drag her out the back door and down to the ocean front, but that kinda sounds like abuse or kidnapping, so scratch that. The thing is, if Mom lets the whole girlfriend thing slip while Lacey's at the table, I have absolutely no way to come back from it. How would I even begin to explain that situation to her? Gee, Lacey, I'm sorry my mom just called you my girlfriend. The thing is, when you're not around, my family members like to pretend we're in a relationship. Actually, full disclosure, I do too. And if that doesn't scare you enough to file a restraining order, the things I fantasize about sometimes definitely will. Yeah. No. Mom places her glass back on the table and lifts an unsteady finger to her lips to shush me.
Cálmate, mío. I promise I won't tell her how much you like her, okay? I know how sensitive you are about those things.
I don't know what you're talking about. I never said that exactly. I just said that I liked her because
Because you do. Simple. You come home 2 weeks ago smiling and singing Spanish love songs in the shower. I wasn't sure what happened at first, but when Tanner told me you met a girl in your science class who made you stutter like you used to, I was so happy. Not about the stuttering, of course, but about the girl.
I drag both my hands across my face and sigh out whatever's left of my dignity. He told you all that? When? Mom makes a swatting motion with her hands in the air.
No importa. All that matters is that you're sharing a beautiful meal with a beautiful girl you've been talking about.
Dear God, I know that it's been a while since we talked, which is unacceptable. And I'm sorry about sucking at prayers, but I really need a favor right now. If you wouldn't mind opening up the ground and swallowing me like you did to that dude who touched the ark, I'd really appreciate it. Anytime in the next 10 seconds would be great. Amen. I clear my throat and straighten up so I don't look like I'm hoping to be sucked through the dining room floor. Mama, can we talk about something else, please? You're embarrassing Lacey. Total deflection, but whatever.
No, I'm embarrassing you. But if you really don't want me to tell her how excited you were to go to church with her last week and how beautiful and kind you said she was, then
You know what? Why don't you go back to the story you were gonna tell earlier? Your favorite one about me? You totally left Lacey hanging and she's probably dying to hear it. Right, Lace? I whip my head in Lacey's direction, expecting to see her eyeing the nearest exit or planning her escape. But she isn't. Her head's tilted in my direction, lips caught between her teeth, and the second she catches my eye, she blushes. Or at least I think she does. That or I'm starting to see things, but I really hope I'm not.
Did you really say all those things to your mom about me?
She says. I pick up my fork and stab at a leftover shrimp to distract myself from staring at her. Yeah, I did, but you can ignore it if you want. I'm not trying to weird you out or anything. I was just, the warmth of 5 tiny fingers finds its way to my thigh, and my lungs stop working altogether.
Thank you, Elias. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said about me.
Lacey lowers her eyes and smiles to herself in that shy way that got my attention the first time I saw her. I don't know if she could ever like someone like me, but for the first time since I met her, I'm thinking, hoping that maybe she could. That maybe that smile has something to do with me. The idea starts a wildfire in my veins, and heat starts spreading across my body so fast I frantically grab for my glass of water to try to cool myself down. I chugged the whole thing in 7 seconds flat, which probably looked and sounded disgusting and borderline crazy, but that's what I get for allowing my mom to tipsy chat with my crush over dinner.
See, Mio? I told you she likes you. You don't have to be nervous about it anymore. I know these things.
She didn't say that, Mama. She just said thank you. Can you stop? Please? Lacey nudges me under the table.
It's okay. I don't mind,
she says, all smiles. I wish I knew which part she didn't mind, the me liking her part or my mom outing me. Let's hope for the former. Oh, well, just let me know if you do start minding. My mom likes to think she's got this romantic sixth sense or whatever and thinks she sees love stories wherever she goes. It's super weird, I say. Lacey giggles and I'm seconds away from full-on letting myself get lost in the sound when my mom clicks her tongue at me from across the table.
So my son doesn't believe in me anymore, huh? Fine. Then I will prove it to you.
My mom stands up from her chair and struts across the room to where Lacey and I are sitting. She taps on the backs of our chairs and signals for the two of us to get up. I have no idea what she's up to, and the idea that sangria is probably driving her spontaneity doesn't make me feel any less nervous about it.
Lacey, ven conmigo. Absolutely, Mrs. King.
My mom throws her arm over Lacey's shoulder and the two of them scuttle to the opposite side of the room where I can't hear what they're whispering about. A shy smile spreads across Lacey's face as she quickly glances over in my direction. It's so subtle that if you weren't paying attention like some obsessive creep bordering on stalker status, Which, let's face it, I kind of am when it comes to this girl. You wouldn't notice. My nerves are shredding like a worn-out pair of shoelaces the longer she stays quiet. Sweat breaks out all over my palms to the point where I have to keep wiping them on my board shorts to keep the situation from getting out of control. And then the entire world spirals out of control. Suddenly, Lacey's crossing the room crazy fast, and before I know it, I'm caught up in her arms again. She traps me in the kind of hug I'm absolutely not prepared for. The kind that's so intensely close that I'm way too aware of all the places where we fit together. I run my arms around her waist and pull her tighter against me without even thinking about the consequences. Screw consequences. I want to drown in the smell of the sunshine and coconuts rising off her skin. I want to live in this space and exist in the sound of her quiet laughter buzzing through her whole body. She tilts her head to the side and presses her ear against my chest for a few long seconds without saying a word. I'm barely breathing, just trying to memorize this feeling in case it never happens with her again. She pulls away from me, cheeks rosy, smile brighter than bright, and looks me dead in the eye.
Your heart's beating so fast,
she says. I make a stupid effort to slow it down, but the secret's already out. It is? She nods.
Yeah, like she said it would be. You should feel mine.
She extends a hand, offers for me to take it so I can put it on her actual chest. And my brain melts out of my ears and seeps onto the floor. I try telling my eyes to remove themselves from the place where Lacey's heart is and to stop dropping their gaze to other parts of her I'd very much like to touch. But it's too late. My imagination's already playing out that scenario, and the little king is way more into it than he should be. Actually, could you excuse me for a second? I'll be right back. I don't even stop to gauge Lacey or my mom's reaction and bolt for the stairs before the inevitable happens. I clear 3 at a time and eventually reach the top of the steps, only to realize the very obvious reason why sprinting has suddenly become extremely uncomfortable. I glance down at my shorts and realize the aftermath of hugging Lacey without making any effort to restrain myself. I should have, but when it comes to that girl, and I mean that in the cleanest context possible, I don't think straight, so here we are. I beeline for my room only to nearly slam face first into Tanner right as he's stepping out into the hallway. He flinches, which is something he never used to do, and grips the shower towel around his waist to keep it in place. Geez, easy on the speed, Eli. You scared me. He runs a careful hand through his bangs, which are screaming for a haircut at this point. I steady myself and cross my hands in front of my shorts so he doesn't notice the obvious. I'm sorry, man. I needed to take care of something really quick, but it's good to see you. Really good. Are you okay? Do you need me to get you anything, or? No, I'm alright. Trying to get back to normal. I can't stay in bed forever, you know. It's really good to see you too. Sorry I've been MIA, it's just I'm trying to deal with all this. He looks off into the upstairs window behind me like he's trying to see the future for our family behind the sunset. He probably can't see it any clearer than I can. I know, me too. And I know I'm not an expert or whatever, but if you want to talk later, I'm here. Okay? Tanner smiles and reaches out for me for the first time since that night. And I don't even realize how much I've missed him until I hug him back. The feeling doesn't last long because he pulls away from me about as fast as he pulled me in. Whoa, Eli. I know Mom always says you can tell how someone feels about you from the way they hold you, and not to call you out or anything, but I'm pretty sure we need to reevaluate what you think brothers should feel for each other. Hardline, bro. This is to never happen between us, like, ever again. What's going on, man? I throw my arms up in defense, but that only draws more attention to my situation downstairs. Dude, I swear this is not because of you. Honest, Lacey's here, and Mom got this crazy idea to like prove that me and Lacey liked each other because she had like a little too much sangria, and she made her hug me out of nowhere, and I need to get rid of it before I go back downstairs, man. Do you have any tips, please? This is kind of an emergency. Tanner blatantly laughs at me, which is kind of a miracle to hear after everything. Well, you got one or two options. You can handle it the tried and true way, but that's definitely awkward considering that Lacey's right downstairs. Or just sad things or weird turnoffs like grandma bras and it'll go away. Thank you for that. I do not appreciate the visual. Tanner slaps me on the shoulder. And that's exactly the point. Just keep thinking that way and you'll be good to go, little brother. Good luck down there. Down where? Downstairs, you weirdo. Oh, and for the record, Mom does have a sixth sense about relationship potential. Don't challenge her on it. I made that mistake with me and Callie, and she totally called me out on liking her before we got together. But hey, it all worked out in the end. Here's hoping for you and Lace. He winks at me and then turns and disappears into the bathroom at the opposite end of the hallway. I try not to stare at the still visible bruises on his back as he goes, but they're impossible to ignore. The sound of Dad's golf club colliding against his body rings to life in my ears and then disappears after a couple seconds. Tanner was right. Fixing my problem was as simple as letting a sad thought in, even if I didn't want it there in the first place. If trying to kill a boner wasn't bad enough, by the time I get downstairs, Mom's chilling in the living room happily sharing the most embarrassing details of my childhood with a girl who's probably never going to want to talk to me again. Awesome.
So, back when Elias was 6 or 7, he loved that TV show. What was it called?
Teletubbies, Mama. Where is this going exactly? I ask as I settle down next to her on the couch. In any other circumstance, I would have sat right next to Lacey, but given the fact that I can't control myself around her, I decide against it.
Ah, yes, Teletubbies. And hush, the story will go where it goes. Anyway, Elias's favorite character was the big purple one, Tinky Winky.
Lacey chimes in all smiles. If I wasn't terrified of where I know this story is going, I'd compliment her for knowing her Teletubbies like a boss.
Yes, that's it. The one with the deep voice. Elias used to run around the house pretending he was Tinky Winky. He asked me to buy him a doll so he could take it with him everywhere.
It wasn't a doll, okay? It was basically an action figure you could paint on your own, and I thought it was cool. Mom reaches over and pats my head to calm me down like I'm still 6 and throwing a tantrum.
I know you did. Until your brother ruined it for you.
Okay, great story. We can stop there.
No, we can't. This is the good part. So, Lacey, Elias used to watch these Teletubbies every day, and then all of a sudden, he stopped. And I couldn't understand it, so I asked him, and he said that Tanner told him he shouldn't talk about or play with his Tinky Winky anymore. Obviously, I disagreed, so I told my little niño that if he liked Tinky Winky so much, he could play with it as much as he wanted.
Mom's shoulders start rippling with the kind of laughter that I absolutely don't appreciate. I could speak up and try to stop her, but it's pretty much pointless now.
And the next day, I walk into his room and I find Elias naked on the floor with his doll in one hand and a paintbrush in the other.
Lacey's eyes just about pop out of her head, and all I want to do is jump out the window or vanish off the face of the planet before my mom reaches the punchline.
What was he doing?
Lacey asks, and as innocent as the question is, I wish she wasn't curious about the answer at all. My mom's barely holding it together by the time she decides to respond.
Well, he painted the doll, but also his Tinky Winky, because his brother told him that Tinky Winky was his,
Lacey's jaw drops open and she looks right at me about as shocked and amused as I thought she'd be. Great.
En serio?
She asks. I don't even have a response. How do you tell the girl you like that you painted your dick purple when you were 6 years old? I think it's kind of getting late, and Lacey and I should probably get started on the homework before she has to go, so can I borrow it for a little bit, Mama? My mom wipes a couple tears from her eyes and nods to me in between laughs.
Of course, but I was really hoping she could share a funny memory with us from when she was a child.
And I bet your mom totally embarrasses you all the time, too. Hopefully, she's not as bad as mine. If you want, you can take her home with you. I don't mind being king of the house for a couple days, I say. I wait for Lacey to laugh or smile at my sad attempt at a joke, but she doesn't. Instead, all the light in her eyes flickers out without warning. Her smile dips a little, but she catches it from slipping altogether at the last second.
I wish I could. My mom used to tease me too. Not so much anymore, but thanks for reminding me what it's like, Mrs. King. I haven't laughed like that at home in a while. Anyway, I think I actually have to get going soon. Elias, is it okay if we text about the homework? My dad's kind of weird about me being out late, and I told him I'd be home soon, so...
She rises to her feet a little too fast and grabs her backpack off the floor in a flurry. I want to slow her down, to ask her to stay, but I don't think she'd say yes, even if I asked her to. Yeah, that's fine. Does your dad know our address? We can study together until he gets here.
I sent it to him a while back. He's supposed to pick me up around 8 anyway, so he should be here really soon. It's probably better if I head out to wait for him.
Lacey wrings her hands together and stares at the floor instead of looking at me. I don't know what just happened or how to get her back to being the girl on the couch who was enjoying a moment like she had all the time in the world. Now she's racing to leave, and I don't know what I did to make her want to run. I can walk you out if that's okay.
And I can pack you a little bit of paella if you'd like to take some home, Cariña,
Mom says. Lacey nods and mumbles a quick thank you, but then is silent for the rest of the time we're inside the house. The first time I ran into her, I felt for the sound of her laugh before I even knew who it was coming from. Her voice was full of light and life. Her silence is where her sadness lives. And I brought it out of her. I never want to make that mistake again. Silence starts to fill the room when a knock on the door cuts through the tension in the air.
That's probably my dad already. Thanks again for everything, Mrs. King, and thank you for having me, Elias.
Sure. You're welcome here anytime. Let me walk you to the door at least. She nods and makes her way to the door so fast I'm tripping over my feet to keep up. I sprint ahead to open the door like I was raised to, and she smiles at the gesture as she steps through the threshold. But then she stops. Both of her feet freeze on the welcome mat and then slowly trail backwards until she crashes into me. Lacey, what's wrong? I thought your dad was here. She shakes her head and backs further into me. Like she's unsteady. Like she's afraid. And I don't understand it. Not the raggedness in her breathing, or the tremors rippling through her tiny frame, until I realize that she's not afraid of her father. She's afraid of mine.